Yes, we have made an analysis of the poem The Tables Turned by William Wordsworth, and it's from 1798. We will start by reading the first three stanzas aloud. Up, up, my friend, and quit your books, or surely you'll grow double. Up, my friend, and clear your looks. Why all this toil and trouble?
The sun above the mountain's head, a freshening lustral mellow, through all the long green fields has spread his first sweet evening yellow.
Books, 'tis as dull endless strife. Come hear the woodland linnet. How sweet his music, O my life! There's more of wisdom in it.
Yes, and the poem is from the Lyrical Ballads, which was one of William Wordsworth's big was it poem things. The genre is a poem and it's a ballad.
Yes, we then have a short summary. In the beginning, the poem starts with the speaker telling his friends to quit reading the books. The speaker then asks why he's so determined and doesn't go outside, where he'll find a beautiful evening. The speaker continues to dislike his reading and says that books are dull compared to the nature. And then the reader wants his friend to embrace the nature with his thrustle, which means a singing bird, and the linnet, which is a small finch. He also says that music has more wisdom than any book ever will have. He mentioned in this stanza that the nature has more to teach than books, which is a main part of the poem. In the text, the two stanzas, the speaker tells his friend that Mother Nature is full of wealth and that she is ready to bestow her fruits on our minds and hearts. He also says that in nature, wisdom comes from being happy and healthy, and that a person can learn more about humanity and about good and evil from a tree than from a sage. The speaker suggests also that even though nature brings humanity sweet traditions of intelligence, we also tend to ruin the knowledge by dissecting it, and instead we should reject traditional science and art and simply come into nature to be ready to learn from a heart that watches and receives.
Yes. And then if we look at the composition of the poem, The Tables Turned presents the way in which nature becomes the best route to follow for the benefit of the mind and the soul. Nature is seen as the ultimate teacher, far better than any books or man. The poem is composed of 8 stanzas, each of them having 4 verses. Each stanza comes with a specific message. The poet invites the reader to abandon books and turn to nature, and it's the only necessary teacher. According to Wordsworth, the lessons of nature touch both the mind and the body in a way that school and books cannot.
Yes, and if we take a look at language and style, it is in ballad form, written in iambs with 4 beats in the first and third lines of each stanza and 3 beats in the second and fourth lines. When analyzing the poem, it is important to consider whether the poem plays with language or not. And overall, the language is simply and easy to follow. Wordsworth himself was keen on simplifying language in his poems and avoiding multiple meanings of any kind. This is why the poem is simple and straightforward. He uses literary techniques and rhyme to make the language flow and create a beat, which is really easy to follow. Every other line rhymes, which makes it a singing rhyme.
Yes, we'll therefore go to the rhythm, the rhyme, and the meter. And like we said before, each 8 stanzas has 4 verses with an ABAB type of rhyme. As we see in and hark how Blitcher the thrustle sings. He too is so mean, preacher. Come forth into the light of things, let nature be your teacher. The metra and the rhythm. The metra is iambic with lines of 4 stresses, like Emma said, and it's alternating with lines of 3 stresses, iambic again, 3 meters. Yeah.
And if you also look at this poem, you can see that there are several devices that he uses. For example, the sequence, "Why all this toil and trouble," is a perfect example of alliteration. And here the consonant C is repeated at the beginning of associated words, which creates this unpleasant sound effect. Wisdom is also described through a metaphor. According to the poem, wisdom can only be obtained through being healthy, and through being merry. All these together contribute to the formation of the ultimate truth. And you can see the metaphor: spontaneous wisdom breathed by health, truth breathed by cheerfulness. And another thing is that nature is also personified. The use of the pronoun she, together with the use of capitalization, this makes nature depicts nature as a beautiful feminine creature. It also says in line 11, she has a world of ready wealth. And this personification is also found when nature is spelled with a capital, which makes it to Mother Nature.
Yes. And if we talk about theme and message, then the main theme of the poem is education. Wordsworth does a very good job in explaining two different types of education in this poem. And after reading The Tables Turned, it is clear that the poet prefers the latter. There's traditional education and there's natural education. Several contrasts exemplify the poet's view on education, where we see in the third stanza, for example, he presents a clear contrast between the dull and endless, in line 11, education provided by books, and then the sweet and full of wisdom education, which is provided by a bird's song. So it's provided by the nature. And in the fourth stanza, also a contrast is seen. It's a formal type of education provided by a preacher, with the blithe way in which the throstle sings. The preacher is seen as mean, while the bird cannot be perverted by such negative feelings. So here you can see notice how the poet suggests that religion, indicated by the word preacher, cannot compare to the wisdom nature can offer. The sixth stanza is very interesting also, because it touches the theme of religion. Again, the contrast between the vernal wood and the sages represents the difference between natural and traditional education. All in all, the two types of education can be characterized by the following words: the traditional education, dark, preacher, dull, mean, trouble, and the natural education, light, teacher, blithe, spontaneous, and fresh. The message of this poem is very clear. He tries to convince his friend, the reader, that he will learn more from contemplating nature than from traditional forms of learning or teaching. Still, care must be taken. The human mind tends to dissect and murder nature, like we see in line 34, and this must be avoided by embracing nature with an open heart that watches and receives, like we see in line 39.
This poem is written by William Wordsworth, and he's known for using a very simple language, as Emma also said earlier. And he often writes about situations from common life. That's his main subjects that he likes to write about. And then he also, as many romantic poets, he value childhood. And glorifies spirit of man living in harmony with nature.
So as we know, the poem is from the Romantic age, so we have characterized some specifics. The theme of natural education is where the Romantic period is shown the most. In the period, the theme nature was used often, and it was said that nature was the mirror of the soul. Wordsworth says in a poem that in nature, wisdom comes from being happy and healthy, and that a person can learn more about humanity and about how good and evil from a tree than from a sage. which fits perfectly with the romantic movement, and it emphasizes the importance of being a part of nature.
Yes, that was all we had in our analysis
you.
of The Tables Turned by William Wordsworth.